Hello and welcome to Weird Heat. I'm your host, Brian Altano, and with me is Max Scoville. Weird Heat is a show about concepts, ideas, life, growing up, and trying to get through it all.
Yeah, doing our best, I guess. Yeah.
Something like that. Speaking of doing our best, this is a tough one, but this week's episode is about stress. I took a deep breath before saying that word because that's a good thing you should do when you're stressed. This is a really tough one to sort of take apart because it's one of those words where you inherently hear the negative to it immediately. You go, stress. Oh, that's bad. He's stressed. It's dangerous. It's he's negative. He's pessimistic. But I do think that there are positive elements of stress.
Totally. No, I mean, I think that you can look at stress like I think stress. The first time I heard about that, like I feel like that was a very popular word in the 90s, and there were all those like. You could get like one of those like punching bags, like a big white punch, like one of those Bop It bags, and it would just say stress on it. You're like, I'm gonna punch my stress out.
You're totally right.
Or that was like a squeeze ball.
It was a very 90s word.
Yeah.
There's
like you'd see a coffee mug that had like a stress crossed out.
There's like 10 different rap songs about stress that came out in the 90s.
It was just, I think that was a term that just kind of came to the popular, like popular view or whatever. But yeah, I mean, you dig into it, and stress is effectively any kind of like mental resistance, I think. When we think of stress, like stress is sort of the catalyst to do anything. And I think that when you say that there's a positive kind of stress, I think that's what you're getting at here.
Yes. Yeah, I think so. Because I think that like it leads to a lot of negative things. I've also seen it lead to comical things that are comical from the outside looking in. Like when someone else is really pissed off, sometimes it's funny. Like I saw a guy outside of a coffee shop in San Francisco get so mad at his phone that he destroyed his phone, which is like a thing that if you did in 2004, that's probably not a big deal. Maybe you're in your apartment, you're pissed off, you throw your phone. But nowadays it's like, I don't know, maybe you have an iPhone X or something, or like some really nice Android. You just take it out and destroy it. And for him, that was like the worst day of his life. And for me, it's really funny to watch. But that guy... It's comical.
I think that's a story for a different episode on Schadenfreude.
That's true. That'll be our longest worded episode yet. But I think what's interesting about that is, to me, that was watching the sort of demise of one person's control over a scenario that I think most of us have either A, been in, but B, have been able to kind of swerve out of before it gets to that point. Stress is a lot of times a loss of control of a situation that you've encountered and your inability to cope with it properly.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that's you're describing someone who is stressed. I don't think that that's actually stress. That's how he's processing stress.
But
that's not like,
true.
The stress is a subjective thing, like it's kind of, I don't know. It's like an allergy. It's like an outside factor that you process a certain way.
Right. Yeah. I mean, stress makes diamonds, and the stress from a waterfall makes a river. And
I think you're talking about friction, but I don't.
Because to me, like stress has always been a thing that's like, okay, when someone's like, "What's wrong?" and you go, "I'm stressed." You're describing that like there are one or more, usually many, scenarios that have piled up together to kind of like conspire against you in a way that feels like something you can't control.
Right.
That's dangerous.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think God, this is fun to dig into because really, like, I don't what the fuck is it?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you think of stress and it's sort of like a mixture of like, I guess it's sort of anger and anxiety and but in like it's almost got like a very functional context to it.
It's the black and white montage before every infomercial,
Yeah.
Which is like why a bunch of products say stress free. It's like stress-free
packaging.
Shit like that.
It's like, who gets that upset about opening a thing?
Because it's like, if you're going to open something and it doesn't open and you start losing your shit, is that stress or are you just crazy?
Are you a nutty person? Who knows? Yeah, I don't know. Like I feel like we've had a pretty stressful few weeks.
Oh yeah.
This has been a fucker of a month. You just had your first child.
Yeah.
I am getting married in 5 days.
By the time this episode is up. you will tie the knot.
Exactly, yeah. The day before yesterday, I was in San Diego for Comic-Con, which I was hosting 3 days of live shows and interviewing strangers and being on live. And live programming is fucking stressful. It is a lot of like, I mean, I think that stress has a sort of that it has it's time sensitive.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think anyone gets, I mean, you can get anxious about like, oh, I'm going to die someday.
I think that's more of like a dread or worry would be something more existential. That's sort of just like, stress, what am I going to do when I retire? I don't know if you're stressed about that.
Stress is like fast dread.
Yeah. There's an immediate, yes, there's like an immediate connection to it. It's there. It's present, or it's down the fucking road. It's in the pipeline headed right towards you.
Stress is not the spider is in the room. Stress is the spider is under your shirt.
Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. No, I don't know. Like but we've been kind of juggling a bunch of stuff going in. I'm like actually wonderfully not stressed right now. I should be stressed because my fucking wedding is in 5 days. But after coming out of Comic-Con, which was 3 days of like incredibly tense, hectic, nerve-wracking stress, I feel like I've almost exhausted that side of things.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing. It's great. But leading into that, it was like I was stressed about two things at once. I was worried about wedding stuff and I was worried about Comic-Con stuff. And
I wonder if there's like something like actually tangibly therapeutic to that in terms of like if you have something incredibly stressful coming down the road, do something slightly less or equally stressful too right before you do that thing.
I mean, you always hear about like those high-powered stockbroker guys who go down to like the meatpacking district and have dominatrixes kick their ass and step on their balls and stuff. And I feel like that's sort of a similar concept where it's like you're relinquishing control. I mean, I'm not really into kink stuff, but I get the sense that that's kind of the idea. That there's very much like this sort of it's power dynamics, you know. And I mean, a lot of stress can come from like either you have a lot of responsibilities and a lot of things to take care of, or you have no control over a scenario.
Yeah.
It's either a surplus of obligation or it's a limited amount of control of the scenario.
That's one I learned recently when I discovered one of the most stressing noise I've ever heard in my life, which is the screaming of a newborn. Like that was a noise that, I've only heard... and every parent will tell you this, but before you have kids, you hear that noise somewhere else and you go, oh God, why'd they bring that on the airplane? Or like, oh my God, that's so annoying, or handle your shit. Yeah. And then you become a parent and all of a sudden you hear that noise and you're like, oh, that's distress. That's danger, but you don't know what it is. So stress for me recently has been, lack of sleep combined with like, less than great dietary habits, and funneling them all into this sound, which is screaming, which is the one word that gets translated to I need cleaning, or
that's a good way of looking at it. That babies only know one word, and it's just screaming.
Exactly. Yeah, it's
like a car horn.
Yeah, it's like if Groot only screamed his name. Like it's really tough. I totally. This is a bad comparison, I think, but I just realized that that's what this show should have been called.
Bad comparisons. No, they. I think a good training for the stress of a screaming baby is, of course, Yoshi's Island, where Baby Mario gets knocked off your back and goes, wah, 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 and there's a clock counting down, and if you run out of time, a fucking witch steals him.
It's horrifying.
But in reality, I don't know. I guess if the kid keeps screaming, it's just sort of bad for the kid, and you feel bad about it.
I when I moved out of my parents' house to go to college, I don't know if we've talked about this on the show before, but I had posters all over my walls, and my mom called me up and she was like, "Hey, we were cleaning your room after you left." Never a good way to start a call. And she was like, "We took some posters down and we noticed there were like a fucking bunch of holes in the wall." And I was like, "Yeah, that's weird." And she's like, "Why are there holes in the wall?" And I was like, shit was really tough in high school for a while there, and I didn't know how to handle it. Like, you guys were up my ass about college, and I was like, sort of dating, and my friends were coming and going, and I was up at 6 o'clock in the morning every night and up till 3 a.m. wired, and I'm growing, and I'm what the fuck, and I got angry, and you and I would get in fights, and I would go downstairs, and instead of like breaking shit or like going out and running like I should have been doing,
running would have been good.
I punched walls, and I put fucking holes in walls, and then I took posters and I put them over the holes. Which doesn't solve anything, but that was, my complete inability to handle the stress thrown at me at the time.
So like I feel like we're fairly like emotionally sound dudes for the most part.
Yeah.
And we know how to sort of process stuff, but there still are those times when you fucking snap.
Yeah.
I had a thing, this was actually last week, I guess. And it was, again, talking about the wedding stress, Comic-Con stuff going into that. I got home from work, and Jen and I got in it over some step of wedding planning, and I was just like, I was carrying it in my neck, like I was just kind of all just tensed up about something, and I was trying to have a conversation about it, and we're just going back and forth and just fucking butting heads. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I'm like trying to go about and do chores, and I start unloading the dishwasher. We have those shitty meal plan Tupperwares that you get like a stack of that are like really flimsy.
Yeah, they like really like dense dudes buy on Amazon.
Yeah, they're like, I'm gonna put 17 fucking hard-boiled eggs in my lunch today. It's fucking egg day or whatever.
Meal prepping. Yeah, all that shit. Yeah.
So I have a stack of these, and I'm like, I'm having this argument with Jen as I'm doing chores, which is never a good idea. And in the middle of the fucking thing, I have this stack of like...
You're just angrily cleaning?
I'm slamming cupboard doors, which is always just... Actually, we've got those cupboards that have little springs in them, so you slam the door and it goes... Like a little... It like catches it. It's got like a little hovercraft door or whatever. Someone said something, or I said something, and I just fucking slam this stack of Tupperware things down, and it explodes. It just fucking shatters and goes every which way, because if I'm putting these fucking things in the dishwasher and they're all brittle and crappy.
I'm laughing at somebody else's stress again.
Yeah. And I managed to, I don't know there was no point to that. That was just a fucking like animal, like rah, like smash thing, like the fucking monkeys in 2001. I was just doing the thing, and I, in the process, managed to just whack my finger really, really hard. I might have broken it. It still hurts. I think it was either just a really bad bruise on the knuckle or whatever. And then I was like, if I just fucking broke my finger before having to write like a 24-hour long live show, I'm a fucking idiot. And I was like, I need to get some part of the chemicals out of my body. So I was like, Jenny, don't talk to me. I'm going running. And I just went downstairs, and like my fucking headphones were dead. So I just ran in complete angry silence. Yeah. No, seriously. I was just like, I have to like do some fucking physical thing. Like I just need to just do this. And that is a healthy way to go about it. But yeah, if I was in high school, I probably would have continued punching walls or smashing things.
So you punch walls too?
Dude, I broke my fucking hand in high school punching a wall.
That makes me feel better.
Because I'm a dumbass, and we lived in a house that had been converted from a bank. Mm-hmm. So it had like, 1930s bank walls basically, and we had this like long hallway, and I don't know if I talked about it on this show or something, but I like was fighting with my mom, and I just took a swing at the wall and punched it as hard as I could. And there was like a picture on the other side of the wall that fell down, and I got a boxer's fracture, which is where you snap one of your metatarsal, whatever. And then I had to wear a fucking orange cast for 3 weeks or whatever, and it was just like, it was the dumbest thing, because like the wall was fine. There was nothing. The wall didn't even fucking have anything to show for it.
Well, and that's the thing. Like when you come out of those scenarios, never ever ever are you like, I'm glad I did that. Like it's this brute show of force and stupidity and stubbornness that sort of like, pressure cooks inside you and explodes, and you have to do something. You have to break something or hit something.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's like I live in a 1-bedroom apartment, and most of the stuff I have around me is like stuff that I love. That's also like not, because you have to, I don't really just have like I don't live in my parents' house. There's not like an old vase that means nothing to me.
Yeah.
Like there's like a PS4 controller, or I could grab
wanna
my
break
Switch.
that
I don't want
shit,
to like bash my Switch against the wall, you know?
I've definitely done the thing where I've like held my phone and I've gripped it angrily and I've been like,
I did that once. I got so pissed at my phone and I just picked it up and it just like went like this and it just like bent a little bit.
Yeah, I think there's I mean we're talking I think more about anger here, which is definitely another topic to dig into, but like I don't know, I think there's a special kind that comes when it's sort of like anger that's informed by stress. And I mean, also being stressed most often, I feel like manifests as anger, or short-temperedness, or like just being short with everybody around you, being like being a real fucking ass. like you're just snippy and you're a shit, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know. That's like a funny thing to think about when you're, and it spreads the stress too.
It does.
You know, if you
it's like watching a guy throw up. It makes you want to throw up.
Yeah. But even then, like, I don't know, I feel like if you throw up, you're like, it doesn't make you more sick. Whereas being stressed is almost like it builds up more more. And then if everyone is yelling at each other and, I don't know, what's that? God, what am I thinking of? There's some movie where there's like a thing that makes everyone
Stand By Me.
It's not Stand By Me.
Contest where everyone throws up.
No, I'm thinking of it's like, is it Heavy Metal where the Lochnar just makes everyone turn evil and just hate each other? Yeah, it's like that where you're like, that's kind of stress.
Yeah.
Like it's just this fucking evil.
Well, it is contagious, and most people probably see it at their job where like there's a manager that's stressed and then he takes that and he trickles it down to somebody else, who trickles it out to somebody else, and now like the whole fucking company's stressed. So, like,
and one of those guys go home and he smashes all his Tupperware and hurts his finger and he has to run 2 miles with no headphones.
Exactly. And it's like, I mean, a lot of it sometimes is this notion that there's too many things happening even in like one day or one window, 1 week or something like that. Like when you're an adult and you kind of come up for air, and you're seeing this now where you're like, oh, I haven't had like a weekend to do fucking nothing in like 6 weeks. Like when do I come out of the other side of this? And it starts stressing you out. That said, I think that like a lot of really good things can come from it. I notice a lot of my creativity like sort of is a lot better when there's sort of that proverbial gun to head about it.
I mean, that's part of the reason we made this show is because it would give us deadlines for things.
Right.
And lo and behold, I've stopped drawing because of other shit that came up. But, you know, no, you are really good at, you have been turning out so much more music since we started doing this show. And that's because you had that clear objective, that kind of target, you know?
Yeah.
I think that, I mean, when you talk about stress in that sense, it's not so much... Like stress is more of a gun to the head than a carrot in front of the horse.
Yes.
That's kind of an interesting, like, I don't know. That's an interesting difference. Like,
Definitely.
It's your motivation for doing something. And like I don't know. We were more productive in art school. Like we made a lot more art in art school than we did not in art school. Because there was a thing where you're like, you have to do this. And we're like, shit, I have to do this. This is hanging over my head.
You just made me realize that if you put a gun to a horse's head, he'd be like, I don't know what that is.
That's terrible.
Isn't that weird? Like we understand the carrot. But if I put a carrot in front of you, you'd be like, why are you doing that?
Yeah,
that's a weird thing to do. No, it's when you have deadlines, it motivates you. It also completely fucks you up. Like I have this. You're getting married in 5 days, 4 days. I'm officiating. Mm-hmm. I've started like 3 different drafts of what your vows look like.
Giraffes.
Yeah, they'll be there. No. Drafts, and I haven't been able to like sit down and actually commit to it because part of me is just like, hey, kick it down the road as long as possible until it's a fucking nightmare demon in the back of your ear that drills through your eyes and forces you to do it at the last second.
I mean, that was pretty much how we approached writing Comic-Con, I feel like.
Yeah.
And it was not entirely our fault, but like, I don't know, things do oftentimes come together at the last minute. I mean, we're seeing this with planning the wedding. Like it's sort of, there's like little things that it's not that we've been putting them off. It's that we didn't know we needed them until now.
Yeah.
And it's,
let me ask you this. Do you find yourself less stressed as you get older or like more capable of dealing with it regularly?
I think,
aside from the shattering of the
I think for the most part, I'm recognizing that nothing works. You know, I think there's a feeling of like of personal failure at not being able to keep up with the sort of the various obstacles around you in real life. And there's this, I mean, it goes in the same category as like, I don't know, people go to the DMV and they're like, the fucking DMV is a disaster. And it's like, well, the entire government's a disaster.
Yeah.
Like nothing really works when you get down to it, you know?
Yeah. I mean
like there's so much,
the entire notion of adulthood is effectively a sham.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's sort of that's the realization. I mean, and I wish that like I had this thing, I used to get incredibly, like I was bad at school because I would get stressed about everything.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know how to properly process the feeling of obligation that came with schooling.
Exact same way.
We've talked about this a little bit, and then I think I realized in about senior year that like if you get a C, you still graduate, you know?
Yeah, it's okay.
And I don't know. I think there's a sort of, again, tactical slacking or whatever. But it's the feeling of like, I don't know, like, I love this in the whole Comic-Con thing. Like when we actually got together to do the whole live show, and there's the whole fucking, we turn a room at the Hard Rock Hotel into a giant fucking studio, and you can all go see it on IGN, whatever. But all these people came together, and all these many moving parts just kind of coagulated, and everyone grouped up. And then our sort of main producer was just like, "Hey, this end of the day, things will go wrong. Nobody will die.
Yeah,
like this is not a matter of life and death. This should all be fun. You know, this is all like when you really drill into it, like what's at stake." And I think there's, I don't know, like thinking about the sort of the stress of things. Like there's a bit in Bowling for Columbine I really, really love, which I think it's Matt Stone from the South Park guys. They interview him because he like grew up in the same area as those dudes who shot up that school, and he was just like, nobody ever fucking told these kids that this is just high school.
Yeah.
And in life keeps going after that.
Yep.
And they built it up to be like, if you fail here, you fail in college, and if you don't get a college, you fail in life, and then you die alone and miserable.
It's
and it's like
fucking terrifying.
And like that's a big issue, you know. That's like and also, I don't know. There's all these sort of half-assed efforts to try to like teach people how to process emotions and deal with stress, but there aren't enough.
No, and I mean I think that like when you're younger, that is like what you just explained there, it's thinking that one mistake is a domino that's going to knock over the rest of your life. You perceive yourself having bigger stresses back then, and you're not capable of coping with them. Whereas I feel as an adult, you have constantly this sort of low hum of stress. And I think that a lot of that is sort of multiplied by the advent of these things. You're on your phone a lot, and you're all of a sudden dealing with factors that you're not used to dealing with. But mostly, I think that you become better at dealing with them moment to moment because you've lived through enough of them to understand that this won't be the end of things, which kind of echoes what you just said, right? I mean, I used to think like, like this everything has to be perfect here. And then you start realizing like maybe it doesn't. Maybe I don't need to be stressed. Maybe I will get through everything. I'll come home sometimes and I'll be starving, and not starving. That's a stupid word to just throw around. I'll be very hungry. And, my wife will be like, "Oh, I took care of the baby this afternoon. I didn't get anything ready for dinner." And I'll be like, "Okay, well, I didn't sleep much last night, and I have 16 projects to work on, and tomorrow we're doing Weird Heat and Comedy Button and all this other stuff." And like, I'm like, well, fuck it. Like, someone has to make dinner for the family. And I get up in 20 minutes, gun to head, I whip something up, and I'm like, okay, the problem's solved now. Now we can sit and like just hang out for an hour. And all of that sort of crystallizes into something tangible, which is food, and then it's eaten, and then everybody feels better. And, I'm on the way home and I'm worried about everything, and then it just goes away. And there's ways to cope with it all. I mean, people take medicine, people take melatonin before they go to sleep, people do edibles, and they fucking pray,
Yeah. There's all kinds of shit that people do. Some things healthy, some things unhealthy, some things
meditate and all that kind of stuff.
No, I mean that's like trying to relieve stress is straight up why that's like why alcohol exists in our culture. Like people don't do that because they're trying to get shit done. That's why coffee exists. Which at the same time I feel like drinking a lot of coffee probably makes stress worse because you're like you're in a like a fucking 90s action movie when in your brain when that happens. But I don't know. I find that like a really helpful thing that not enough people do, and this can work with stress or anxiety, which is again another topic for another day. But writing down a list, like organizing thoughts and making them manageable. And I think there's also something vaguely I don't think it's cathartic. It's like it's like witchcraft, really.
Yeah.
Where you take this thing, this feeling, this concept in your head and you put it onto a piece of paper, and suddenly, like, it's like when they take the ghosts in Ghostbusters and they put them in the trap.
Yep.
You know, they're not these things flying around anymore. They're in a box.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
you still have to deal with them. You still have to put them somewhere.
I completely agree. I think even if you tell yourself when you're making the list of shit you have to do to decompress your stress, tell yourself, I'm probably not going to do everything on this list. Like, you're probably not going to.
I always say pad it and put a couple of like easy ones on there. You know?
I find that visually just having a list is easier because it's sort of a tower of things. It's a skyscraper. It's a building, rather than your brain, which takes everything and puts them in a fucking pile. Like, there's just this garbage mountain of shit.
No, it's like those.
Head.
It's like those bingo ball machine things where you have to reach in. You're like, I need to remember what I was trying to do, and you reach in, and you're like, this isn't. Forgot I had to do that, and shit. What's that? It's like, I don't know. So you ever try to find something in your backpack and it's dark, and you're like, I don't know, I have to feel around for it.
It's why like word clouds stress me the fuck out. Like,
word clouds fucking suck. I'm glad that it's not like 2008 anymore. We don't have to see so many of those fucking things.
But like having a list like totally helps me break shit down and stress less about everything, because I can look at all of them and I'm like, oh, all of these are not equally weighted, but also now they sort of are, because like your brain has a tendency to say, call my dad is as important as I have to finish writing Max and Jen's wedding vows. And they're not. You know, one of them is way more stressful than the other. But when you put them all on a list, they look like they're all the same shape and size.
I think of it as like a bunch of side quests in a video game, you know? And it's like, it's funny because you'll have like, I don't know, you'd be playing like the fucking Witcher or something, and it'll be like, all right, you got to fucking save the goddamn universe, but also you have to collect 15 rutabagas or whatever. And you're like, well...
What's great about that is like the font on both of those quests is the exact same size.
There might be like a different logo next to one or the other, but it's like you never know what's going to be.
Right.
You know, I don't know. I have a list right here. We have some Patreon backers: Louise, Jonathan, Corey, Rondi. Sorry, we're very late on sending you nice custom videos, but that's a thing that's been weighing on my mind, and it's like we need to get on top of that. One thing I think does not help stress, which I think I use it very sparingly, but reminders on my phone.
Oh God, yeah.
And I'm the thing is you can set the reminders, and it's a cool idea. Like, and I think some people really adapt to this well, but I'm the kind of person who fell through all of middle and high school without ever fucking properly managing an assignment book. They were always like, here's your assignment notebook. Write down your assignments for each class. What do you have for social studies? What pages? Which questions?
Yep.
And I'd be like, oh shit, I forgot my assignment book. I'll write it on my arm. And then I'd be like, oh shit, I washed my arm. Why did I get my arm so dirty? I don't know what French homework I'm supposed to do. But with reminders, you're like, remind me at a location. And then you get to that location and Siri or whoever just pops up and it's like, buy eggs, or you know, whatever the fuck it is you have to do. But if you forget to do that, then it reminds you again the next time. And it's like, in theory, that should help.
Yep.
But I'll have stuff on there where it's like remind me every day until I fucking do it. And eventually I'm just like, I hate this thing, and I'll like put it away, and then I'll fucking forget.
Well, I've had situations like where I get to the airport and my Virgin America app is like, hey, here's your travel itinerary. Here's your boarding pass. So I got you covered, baby. And I'm like, thanks, you little robot. And I get through security and I get to the gate and the dude's like, that's actually the pass from the last time you flew here. And the robot's dumb and geotagged it and didn't remember the new one. And I'm like, okay, well now I went from having like a leisurely morning to being stressed the fuck out.
Yeah.
I noticed that too with travel in general.
Airports are a fucking great place for stress.
Yeah, and I think
that's why they have bars in them.
Well, I think like the DMV and jails. I think like the DMV, that's why people go into them expecting stress. And like I love my wife, but she has this thing where like I travel a lot more than she does. You and I in general travel way more than the average person does.
We're in fact business travelers many a time.
Yeah, that's true.
We're like fucking dads in John Hughes movies.
It's very funny.
It's fucking weird.
And so I don't really have a routine when I get to the airport, but I like to get there a little bit early, and like I don't really like to fight everybody when it comes to like that bum rush at the beginning, because I see that brings out the worst in people and they start going fucking nuts. And my wife is always like, we got to get on this plane, we got to stake out the overhead, we got to get our bag up there, this is this. I'm like, yo, chill the fuck out. Like you're freaking me out right now. We will be fine. Everything will be okay. We'll make it. We'll be fine. But I think just like the DMV, people go into a situation being like, it's fucking hell in there. Fucking bring your battle axe, and they're ready to
totally.
to war.
No, I mean, there's look at like planes, trains, and automobiles.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like that's a perfect example of like how to two different ways to handle stress. You know, you get like John Candy, who's like, well, everything is fucking broken and sucks, but you know, well, you might as well just try to, you know, do your best and have a good time. And then Steve Martin is like, fuck you, you fucking fucks, get me the fucking car so I can go fucking home.
Yep. It's like, it's very trite and corny, but that deep breath shit works. Like very simple things like that. Like it actually works. It's just pumping oxygen to your whole body, and you're probably just normally taking short, shitty breaths all the time. And if you stop and go, like your brain goes like, okay, things got quiet for a second. I did a little thing for me. I notice like in the morning, if I'm stressed out, if I have a stressed out morning and I put on my headphones and I start walking to work and my headphones are like, hey buddy, I don't know what's going on with you, but we decided to play some angry fucking music for you right now. That changes everything for the worse for me. Like I go from being like on a 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 on the stress scale to like 9 or 10. And then I come into work like ready to tear my shirt off, and I'm like, what the fuck? What's going on?
Those are weird mornings, man. I'm just sitting at my desk like, morning, Brian. You're like, fuck you.
So like, I don't know, countering that with like something calming, it again sounds fucking corny, but that doesn't mean like, you know, like delete all the death metal on your phone. I think there's good times to do that.
Definitely a time and a place for that shit.
Hell yeah. But like sometimes it's good to just wake up, like put on some fucking just smooth jazz and just like be like, okay, everything sucks. It'll be fine. None of this will kill anyone. And then you get to work and you're like, okay, there's new shit to be stressed about here, but I can handle it.
There's always going to be something. You know, I think it's important to also sort of weigh the so Jen's family came from Vietnam. Like her whole family moved over after the war, and they have seen some shit. They have seen some fucking horrors, and they are all the most fucking chill, laid back people you will ever meet. Like they are just like her dad, her uncles, they're all just like, they're just, I think they recognize that they're like, fucking after that, no, we're not going to get fucking worried about some bullshit.
That's fucking amazing.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, that's not to say that they don't ever, you know, yell at each other or get in fights about stuff or get worked up about stuff. But
of
for
course.
the most part, they're kind of like, it's not the end of the world. You know, like are you having a gun pointed at you? Oh, okay. Is there a possibility you might drown? Oh, well then you're probably okay.
Are you a horse? Because you don't know what that is. I notice on my mom's side of the family, they always got me more stressed because Italians are very loud and rambunctious and talkative, and they're on the phone and they're yelling and they're screaming in Italian. And I'd always be like, "What are you? Is everything okay? Are you and your brothers fighting?"
Yeah, and it's like Gina's cat had kittens or something. You're like, the fuck?
Everything's okay. Like it's just you ramp it up.
Yeah.
But I think that like you see a lot of people like that in scenarios like that. I see people at the gym. They're like stress worked out, and they get me like I go there to sort of decompress, you know, but I see people who are just like very aggressive, and they're very much like, you know, just grabbing shit and smashing shit, and they're like grunting and yelling, and maybe they're decompressing from something. Again, that is sort of, there's a contagion to that I think spreads to other people, where other people start being like, now I'm more worked up. I mean, road rage is like a specific example of that, right?
I think road rage, and this actually ties into the phone thing, I think that road rage is specifically a byproduct of a lack of control put there by the mechanics of what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And you see this with people fighting on the internet.
Yep.
You see this with people playing video games. You see this with road rage. It's whenever there's like a separation between you and the actual scenario, I think causes some sort of like interrupt, where like, I don't know, when you get in a fight with somebody over the phone and you go, ugh, and you either try to not bend your phone, which you could bend your phone, it's been proven, but like you grab it or you throw it at the fucking wall, or if you're, I don't know, fucking what's her face from America's Next Top Model, you just fucking throw it at their head.
Yeah.
But like, it's not that, like, if you were actually talking to that person, it would be a different experience, you know? And like maybe the sort of the human interaction side of it would prevent you from getting that worked up. But with road rage, you know, cars are like babies. Again, they can only honk or
they have
just
one word.
fucking crash into each other. You know,
Angry Groot.
yeah, Groot. Yeah, Groot should be fucking just screaming constantly. He should be infuriated because he's not able to communicate properly.
He's also constantly growing and going through puberty.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a tough time for a growing boy.
There's like an issue where Jean Grey reads his mind, and he's got very lovely thoughts. He's a very nice tree. Like Groot's a wonderful character, but like, you know, I don't know. Cars aren't. Cars can be like, I'm going this way, or I'm going this way, or I'm stopping, or what? It's just screaming, you know?
Right,
like,
and every combination of those things impact everyone around them, and they suddenly start getting all antsy and worked up about it.
Yeah. But I mean, like, looking at, like, you know, arguing on the internet, I've always said this because, like, some people aren't as good at using words as other people are. Like, not everyone is able to like coherently put their thoughts into writing, and mostly on the internet, you have to use writing to communicate with people. And I've had this where, like, I'll be angrily walking to work. I'll be like checking Twitter. I'll be listening to fucking death metal, and I'll check my fucking Twitter, and some guy says something. He didn't reply to the thing that I said, and I'm just like, fuck you, fucking shit. And then I'll take my phone and I'll try to bend it, you know. And then he gets back to me and he's like, hey man, I'm sorry. I was just kidding. You didn't have to blow up with me like that. And I'll be like, I'm really sorry. This is a fucking, like, as far as human interaction goes, Twitter is the worst place to have it possible.
Well, because again, like, it's the font size is the same for the guy being like, hey, great job, Max, and the guy being like, hey, great job, Max.
Yeah.
Like, it's the same fucking size.
Exactly.
And so your brain has to be able to separate those things, but more importantly, it has to be able to deconstruct those things and get you to understand them without bending your phone. And I don't know where we'll get that. I actually, like, I don't want to call anybody out, but like, when I see people who are just constantly Zen, I'm a little like apprehensive about them because I feel like,
oh, they go down to the meatpacking district and they get their nutsack stepped on and kicked in the butthole or whatever.
maybe. I think that, like,
they go down there and they got like a dominatrix car that just honks at them.
I mean, there are some people who are just like, they're always chill. They're never stressed. And I'm always like, how the fuck does that guy do that? And it actually, like, it works me up a little bit more because I'm kind of like, why the fuck aren't you upset? But then again, I saw a guy at work a couple years ago. He started yelling about something. And we were like, what's wrong? And he was like, everything. And everyone should be mad about it. And again, we all laughed. Because we were like, why would
you are like the worst person to be stressed around because you'll just say like, you'll like drop little bits of salt in the wound.
What do you mean?
You'll just be like, you'll make a joke and it's like, I've learned to kind of adapt to it, but it's fucking, it's like really funny in hindsight. And that's like because you recognize that the situation isn't that bad. Mm-hmm. But when I'm trapped inside
salt is a good preservative.
There you go. Yeah. No. So when I was in high school, I had one of those like early Creative Labs MP3 players. I think we actually sell a shirt. WeirdHeat.com. It's got a picture of a bunch of MP3 players I had. I had the Creative Labs MP3 player, and it was one of the first ones that had a hard drive in it. Mm-hmm. And I had a really shitty hard drive at home on my computer. I don't want to put all my pirated music somewhere, so I got this fucking thing, and I dumped all my music on there. So every piece of music I ever had was on this one little fucking block.
All 14 songs.
All four. I mean, it was it was like probably 16 gigs or something.
Yeah, that's huge.
And I was like, oh, my music, and I had it out, and I was talking to somebody, and this girl fucking jumped on my back as like to flirt or as a goof or because she's a fucking idiot, I don't know. And the thing fell out of my hands and it hit the ground and the fucking battery flew out of it and the cover came off and it didn't visibly shatter. And I was like, oh, I made like the worst noise. I made like the fucking slowed down like Hank Hill, like, oh, and this kid is standing there and I will never forget this. And he looks at me and goes, hey, dude, relax. It's not like it was an MP3 player, which is like, in hindsight, very funny.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was like, no. And of course, I fried the hard drive and lost all my fucking music.
Yep.
But like that kind of shit, when somebody says shit like that, that usually is gasoline on the fire. In hindsight, it's almost always funny. Uh-huh. But you are so guilty of that shit, man.
Hey, vice versa. You've done the same thing. But no, so I think that's a big thing is like you can take a stress and you can multiply it tenfold in seconds just by handling it the wrong way. And speaking of dropping things, I saw a friend of ours once drop her phone, pick up her phone, so angry at herself that she dropped her phone that she smashed her phone to fucking smithereens on the sidewalk. Like, she picked it up and she was like, God, I got a fucking crack in my phone. Fuck this phone. And then threw it on the ground until it exploded. And it went from being like, this is a problem we can fix, don't worry about it, to like, oh God, we have to go to an Apple store in a foreign country. Like,
I know who you're talking about.
Within seconds. Yeah. And, you know, part of me was like, wow, that was crazy. And then the other part of me was like, yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, there's a guilt to that. There's like a sort of like, you know, you lost control for a second, or like something bad happened to you. You don't want your finger rubbing against glass the whole time. Maybe it's you being like, if I destroy this thing, it won't even be a fixable problem. Mm-hmm. I can just nuke it and start from scratch.
Yeah, I mean, that image of the business person with the phone is like that is like the Roman god of stress.
Yeah,
whoever that person is, like they show up and they're like, no, you fucking get this fucking done right now. Mm-hmm. And I will call you. Like, that's a cliche of like 90s and 2000s movies of like this person who's so tied to their job that they are like constantly on the phone. Like,
go on like stock photo websites and type in stress on phone. There'll be 10 million photos of people just holding it in front of their face like, ah.
Yeah. And I mean, we're like, I feel like we can't criticize people for being successfully angry business people because we are overgrown fucking 10-year-olds who like the most serious thing we do is this show where we talk about how we think that business people are too stressed. But like, I don't know, at the end of the day, like what's at stake? Like, what are we talking about here? And like those, like, I think of like Angelica's mom from Rugrats, who's just like
constantly high.
Yeah. She's on her phone and she's walking around and there's that whole kind of like just I don't know. I feel like conventional business is I mean, it's evil. It's terrible. It's an awful thing. And that, not to get too like hippy dippy, but like, I don't know. You look at people who like, you know, like stockbrokers who jump out of fucking windows when like the market crashes, and like, man, that's fucked up.
Right.
Like the whole Matthew McConaughey character in Wolf of Wall Street, who's like, he's like, all right, you're going to have 4 martinis with lunch and you're going to do some cocaine and you're going to jerk off a lot, you know? And it's like, you're like, maybe that's not good that is all there.
Yeah,
you know?
Maybe that's not a good option for you to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that like you do get better at coping with it as you get older, even though more of it gets thrown your way. But you just have to learn to sort of mitigate the moment to moment of it. That's at least the only like kind of quantifiable everyday use case scenario advice that I can throw in that I try to get myself to learn every single day. Because it's fucking stupid. It's not always the same factor. Like, I ride public transportation in San Francisco every day. And every day there's like a new surprise about why it's fucking broken or stupid or something like that. And I used to be a lot more upset about it or just angry or stressed about it all the time. And I learned to sort of be like, hey, if I roll in 5 minutes late or, 10 minutes early or, best laid plans, there's really nothing I can do to control this. Like, you have to start identifying how much of this is within my own control. How much is like, look at fucking elevators. People stand in front of them and they push the button 200 fucking times. Be like, get here, get here, get here, get here. And it's like, it doesn't work. It does nothing. It gives you something to do. But by now, you should have something else to do. Read a sign. Look at your phone.
Yeah.
Count the ceiling lights.
Well, so I think that's one really, like, in terms of how you can deal with stress. One thing is just be early. Mm-hmm. Be early. Maybe like bring a book. I don't know. Carry your phone. Put a nice game on there. Or whatever.
Well, that's my like ideology with travel.
Exactly. Like, that is the one thing. Like, so I mean, I was saying like Jen's family is not. They're not like stressed about shit. Her dad is like fucking chronically early to the point that I'm like, you're out of your goddamn mind. And to the point that I have probably spent, I think overall, like traveling with the family, I want to say like 9 hours in airports at least because we were that early.
Wow.
Not at once, obviously, but like, it's to the point where you're like, well, I guess better safe than sorry. And like at the same time, like, there is something really fun about that, like, Home Alone intro where you just book it through the gate and you're like, whew, I'm safe,
Yeah.
But like, At the same time, missing a flight is also terrifying. And
No, I mean, I missed a flight coming back from LA, or didn't miss a flight. I got on it by 5 seconds, and it was the most, up there with the birth of my child. It was the most traumatic shit I've gone through in the last year, because it was fucking terrifying.
But if you'd missed that flight,
it would have been fine.
You would have gotten on the next
I would have gotten on the next flight an hour and a half later, it was really funny, because it's I was traveling with Sean Finnegan, and Sean did everything he could to get us to the airport right on time, and LA did everything it could to make sure we didn't, which is what that city does, to be fair.
Oh, yeah. No, it's great at
And
that.
we got there, and I was like, I have TSA pre-check, and he's like, I don't. I'll see you on the other side, brother. And I got through everything, and then he didn't, and I got back to IGN, and an hour and a half later, he walked in, and he was like, yeah, man, it was totally cool. I just got on the next one. We had a nice long breakfast, and I was like, oh, I ate like a wolf on the plane, practically in tears. And I couldn't believe I got into the sky. They closed the door on my ass. That's how close it was.
I mean, I think that's, there it is that's the kind of acceptance that maybe this won't turn out the way you want to, you know? It's that desire to be fucking go big or go home. It's unless you nail the thing, you're fucking up.
Yeah.
You know, and I think to see things like that is really, well, it's stressful, you know, to see it as to see this pinnacle of success that if you don't achieve this, then nothing else matters.
Yeah.
And that might be fucking wussy loser talk, but I don't really give a shit, you know? I'm happier when I'm not, totally miserable about everything.
Exactly. And if you can channel your stress into dinner or some creative project or something that makes it feel like there was a tangible result to the other side of it. Because otherwise it just gets bottled up and you put holes in the walls, and it's probably only so many posters that you can put up over those. Yeah.
Man, we got to do one about anxiety. That's a big one.
Yes.
Anxieties. I feel okay. So stress is like a fucking rabid professional anxiety. Mm-hmm. Stress is weaponized anxiety almost.
Yeah.
Anxiety is like having a fucking a ghost in your house. Stress is having zombies outside it, you know?
Yeah, and they're clawing at the windows. Yeah.
They might not want to eat you. They might just want to come inside, but you don't know that, so you're you're worried. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, well, the weird thing about anxiety is that they might not even be there.
Empathy is the wolf man when you really get into it.
Okay.
Yeah. And the Flying Dutchman, that haunted boat, that's compassion.
Okay, we're doing all the universal.
Yeah, the Flying Dutchman is royalty free. I'll have you know.
That's true. That's Weird Heat. This was an episode about stress. Little Easter egg: at the end of every episode of the show, I produce a song tied into the episode's theme. For whatever bizarre reason, we decided stress for this one, and it was the easiest one that I've made yet. And in terms of
that's fucking horseshit.
Isn't it? Well, in terms of in terms of ones that were I think
you should do it again before this episode goes up.
Damn it. No, yeah. I mean it was I got a weak head start on it. I think I just found the theme of it so fucking inspiring.
Yeah.
Cause I was like, oh, I know what that sounds like. Whereas I don't know what cooking sounds like.
Have you heard the Justice song Stress?
Yeah.
Have you seen the video for that?
Yes.
Yeah. So everyone look that up. Here's another wonderful, considerably more stressful black and white video than the one you're watching right now, if you're watching this video. Justice has a song called Stress. The video is just fucking stressful.
Yep.
It's like an evil black and white jackass. It's just not, the last time I put it on, people were like, can you turn this off? I'm getting worried. And I was like, well, maybe that's the point of the song. What do you know?
On top of that, you should watch the video or listen to the song by Organized Confusion, which is a 90s rap group starring Prince Poe and Pharoah Monch, who went on to do a bunch of fucking awesome stuff, including Simon Says, which oddly enough is a song that stresses me the fuck out because it samples Godzilla, and it's like, bam, 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 get the fuck up. It's a very stressful song. And they did a song called Crush, Kill, Destroy, Stress, where like most Organized Confusion songs, the first rapper comes in and he's got some good raps, and then Pharoah Monch comes in and he's just on a different fucking planet and just brings it somewhere. So go listen to that. And yeah, thank you so much for listening to our show. Let us know how you deal with stress, what stresses you out, how you decompress from stress, what you're possibly stressed about in the future, just how you handle it, how you cope with this weird demon that we all have to fight constantly in its tiniest and largest forms every single day, whether it's the carrot or the gun to the head of the horse. For more weird
What's the
heat,
expression? Spare the carrot, gun the horse.
For more Weird Heat, go to weirdheat.com. You can also go to Patreon.
That's where you get t-shirts.
That's true, but there's more of it there. It's enough for you to
just
wear.
type Weird Heat into whatever the fuck it is you're holding.
But most importantly, please help keep the show alive. Go to patreon.com/weirdheat. Kick us $1 or something like that, and just keep the lights on. Very few people actually support this show financially. I'm not scolding you. We didn't really think this would be quit our job money off of this, but I do want more people to find out about it. So,
yeah, and I think even more importantly than the money side of things, if you like this show, tell your friends about it.
Yeah, definitely.
Tell them in person. Tell them. I feel like we have enough of a body of work on our on this show that you can kind of get a sense of what we're doing with it. We're finding our groove. We're figuring it out. I feel like this has been our least stressful episode yet.
Yeah, totally. I don't even have our laptop in front of me.
The last time we recorded, we did 4 at once.
Yep.
So sorry that the autofocus kept drifting in and out. That was annoying. But yeah, we're finding what this show is, and it feels good, man.
I think you're going to be like an even more laid back dude after you're married.
Oh, dude, it's gonna be great. I don't have shit to do. I have people have been like, how's everything going? And I'm like, it's fucking great. I'm not doing anything in August. Leave me the fuck alone in August. I have nothing planned. If you want to see a very stressful video, look up the video I did for IGN at Comic-Con with the cast of Preacher. It was everything went wrong. Nothing there was staged. That was all just chaos in action. And I feel like I handled it pretty well, and the end result wasn't that bad. But yeah, that's. I
think that's a good exercise of turning an incredibly stressful scenario into something magical.
Yeah,
it's a nice work.
Yeah.
So yeah, you already got the websites, all that fun stuff. Weird Heat. Follow us on Twitter. I'm at Agent Bizzle. Max is at Max Scoville, and you know where to get our shows and stuff by now. So
yeah, you can figure it out. It's all good.
If you like our music, it's on Spotify, it's on iTunes, it's on Apple Music, it's on Amazon, it's got on literally everything. I check all the boxes. So even if you're on one of those weird apps that I've never heard of before, we're probably there too. So look up Weird Heat and subscribe and do what you got to do.
Yeah, you guys know how to use the computer. Or the tablon or the foam or whatever you call them, these devices. But yeah, thanks for sticking with us. We've had wonderful positive feedback on this show, and mother of God, I am so much less stressed after Comic-Con. It's fucking great.
Remember, deep breaths.